Good morning and welcome to Edgewater Ranzel's webinar series. Today's webinar highlights HFM's latest versions, features, and functions and demonstrates why it's time to upgrade your current version of HFM. And it is hosted by Mike Crowell and Dan Maturo. Our webinar series targets specific customer interests related to business analytics solutions that include Oracle Hyperion Enterprise Performance Management, Business Intelligence, and Big Data. So we'd like you to email us at seminars@ranzel.com with topics that you'd like to see covered. During the presentation, we encourage you to submit questions in the right-hand panel on your screen, and we will do our best to respond at the end of the presentation. Edgewater Ranzel provides holistic business analytics solutions that help organizations to define, measure, and innovate their business, provide a clear vision, and drive business value. We have resources and clients located throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe. Our team of over 200 employees has years of industry-specific experience and has earned numerous and varied software certifications. Services we provide support all facets of Oracle Enterprise Performance Management, Business Intelligence, and Big Data Solution Delivery, including consolidation and reporting with the Financial Close Suite, Enterprise Planning, Profitability and Cost Management, and Business Intelligence Applications and Technology. And we offer supporting services for infrastructure, data services and integration, training and support services, and project management. For additional details about Edgewater Ranzel, visit our website, www.ranzel.com. Edgewater Ranzel celebrates 20 years this year as a leading business analytics service provider and was recently recognized by CIO Review magazine as one of the 100 most promising big data solution providers. Ranzel also recently received the 2016 Partner Achievement Award for outstanding success in the category of big data. For the third year in a row, Edgewater Ranzel has been recognized by the Commonwealth Institute and More Research as the 5th largest woman-led business in Florida and is ranked in the top 10 for each of the last 5 years. Finally, Edgewater Ranzel's recent acquisitions of M2 Dynamics and Chicago-based Branchbird, both Oracle partners, have facilitated Ranzel's expansion of business analytics solutions consultancy services in the West Coast and southern regions of the United States, and big data discovery solutions to complement the EPM BI suite offerings. Today's presenters are Mike Crowell and Dan Maturo. Both gentlemen are practice managers in our Financial Close group and have been working with the Oracle Hyperion consolidation products for over 20 years. Mike and Dan are both certified in Hyperion Enterprise and Hyperion Financial Management. They have been responsible for numerous global implementations of HFM and work with customers to understand their consolidation and reporting needs and requirements and develop project plans to drive project success. Mike?
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Happy Election Day. Thank you for taking your time this morning to hear about the new features and functionalities with HFM 11.1.2.4. You can sort of see here from a high-level agenda what we're going to try to accomplish over the next hour. Again, first explain why companies have already upgraded to 11.1.2.4 and the major features that came with this release. But we're primarily spend a good part of our time talking about the new features and enhancements that have come out with the patches that have come out over the past year to 6 months. And then we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So jumping right in, HFM 11.1.2.4 came out back in January of 2015. So obviously it's been out for quite a while now. Definitely a mature version of HFM. This release was a significant release of HFM, primarily because Oracle changed the underlying architecture of the software. And by doing that, there's significant features that came with this release. One, it became platform independent. So now HFM is just not Windows-based. It's also supported on Oracle Analytics. One of the biggest things with this release is, and what probably end users experience the most, is the performance improvement. So consolidation times are have been seen to go 2 to 5 times faster than from previous releases. There were studies out there from companies that had a consolidation time of, an hour and 20 minutes going under 10 minutes, 50 minutes down to 4 minutes. So definitely a significant improvement in performance, and that was just upgrading to, this release, not changing your metadata, not changing your rules, primarily just moving to this release saw great enhancements in performance. So not only in consolidation times with the performance, but just overall interacting with the data retrieval from your financial reports to SmartView, to things just like loading your metadata, your rules, your security, things like that. Just overall interacting with the HFM application, there was significant performance improvements. More from an IT standpoint, the big features was it now supported IE 11, so Internet Explorer 11 is now supported, as well as Microsoft Office 2013, as well as now 2016. It also supports the latest operating system, Windows 10, so you can now use your, access to your Hyperion workspace via your Microsoft tablet if desired. So these were the key features that happened with this release of 1.2.4. But since this release, there has been significant patches that Oracle has released that have added additional features and functionality. So there's been a .100 patch that came out probably just over a year ago, and then a 200 patch that came out within the last 6 months. And some of the key features that we're going to go through today is, one, Insight Dashboard. So this is a nice administrative feature that allows you to go in here and from a dashboard perspective, see what's going on with your application, what users are in the application, what tasks they're performing, how much memory your application is using, type of errors that you might be receiving within your application. And we'll go through each one of these dashboards. Another nice new feature is called Rules Profiling. This feature allows you to see how long your consolidations are taking and how much your rules are impacting your consolidation times, right down to your major subroutines, your calculate subroutine, your consolidate subroutine, translate subroutine. So this provides you a lot of insight into what's going on with your rules. More from an end user perspective, some benefits that they are able to see is, one, the ability to look at your data grids, your data forms in a graphical format. So to see your data in a pie chart, a line graph, a bar graph, and we'll walk through those and show you what that looks like. Another really nice feature that end user can use is the ability now to do journals within SmartView. So, over the past couple of years, Oracle's really, worked to move a lot of the HFM functionality that you use via the web, put it into SmartView. And this is one of the bigger components that now is in SmartView. The ability to do all your journals within SmartView, the same type of things that you could do via the HFM workspace can now be done in SmartView, and we'll walk through that capability. One thing to point out that you do have to be on one of the latest versions of SmartView to enable this. At a minimum, it has to be 11.1.2.5.500, but Doc 6.10 is the latest patch with SmartView. Also with this release, with 1.2.4, Oracle did away with a lot of, I'll say, the Hyperion utilities that were in previous releases. And one of those utilities that a lot of companies like to use is the copy app utility. But now with these patches, that functionality is now back, and it's located right within the Hyperion workspace. So now we have the ability, once again, to copy your production application over to your job or test environment, or to make a copy right within an existing environment. We'll talk about that as well. Okay, so now jumping into, I'll say, the first, again, major feature is the Insight. So again, this is a dashboard feature that allows you to see what's going on within your application. This is an administrative feature, and so it can be found by going into your Navigate, Administer, Consolidation Administration, and there's a new Insights icon that you'll see. And once you click on it, you'll see, so like we see here at the screen, you're going to see 6 different dashboards that come up that gives you a lot of different information what's going on within your application. We'll walk through each one of these. The first dashboard is called your application status. So again, this sort of gives you just a high-level view. Is your application being used? So in this example here, we can sort of see a red arrow. This tells me that actually no one's in the application. If you do have users in your application, you'll see a green arrow pointing up. This also gives the ability to see the different dimensions that are designed within your application and how many members exist within your dimensions. Another nice feature is now the ability that the HFM administrator can actually restart the HFM data process. So probably currently, right, if you're by chance your application happens to get hung up or stuck, right? You're more than likely calling your IT and having them recycle your Hyperion services. Well, now the HFM administrator at least has the capability to come in here and restart the application process to hopefully maybe get your application up and running if by chance it's hung up for some reason. The next dashboard is called the performance overview. So again, this is a quick snapshot of sort of like the volume of key things that might be going on with your application. You know, the number of users in the application, maybe the type of errors that are taking place. You know, again, what's maybe really key if you think your application is running slow, you can come out here and you can see how much memory your application is being used, or if your CPU might be maxed out. Again, right in the past, you would need access to your HFM server to see some of this information. Now you have a nice dashboard to come in here and sort of get some key ideas of what's going on within your application. The next dashboard is the users. So here's again another just nice area. Maybe HFM administrator wants to come in during a month-end close process, see what users are in the application and how long they've been in there, completing their tasks. So here's an example of again just a graphical dashboard of the users that are in the application and how long they've been in there. You can also see the same view in sort of a table format. Again, it's going to capture the users, the dates they're in there, and again, a duration of how long your users are in there, how long it might be taking them to complete their monthly month-end tasks. So going now a step further, the next dashboard is tasks. So we first saw like what users are in the system, how long they're in there. Now we can see exactly what task each end user is performing. This first example is keeping track of all the tasks that are being performed inside the HFM application and how many times they're being performed. So you can see how many times consolidations have taken place, how many times maybe a system report is being generated, if journals are being posted and unposted, things like that. And you can see there's different tabs up here to get even additional information. So again, we can get more to a table format where I can, again, see the user, see what tasks are being performed, and more importantly, how long it's taking to perform those tasks. So again, maybe if you really want to understand how long does it take to run a consolidation, load a metadata file, run a system report, I can see that right in here. On row 3, I can sort of see that it took just over 4 minutes to run a consolidation. So it provides a lot of insight to what's going on, what your users are doing within the application. And as I keep saying, so just about every task an end user can perform within an application is being logged here. So again, whether they're running consolidation, doing stuff with journals, running an intercompany matching report, loading a metadata file, it's all being captured and stored within this application. And now the HFM administrator can easily see what's going on within their application and by each user. The next dashboard is errors. So I'm assuming most of you on the phone, are currently probably using HFM, and more than likely at some point you have experienced an error message. And as we all know, sometimes it's very hard to decipher some of these error messages. But at this point, at least this dashboard shows you the different errors that are taking place. So even now, looking at this, we might not understand what error 3277 is or error 954, but we can click on the next tab and we can drill into further information of this error message, It provides further detail. Again, we still might sometimes, even these descriptions might not be clear what the error really is, but now you at least have a great place to start to troubleshoot the issue, Now you can call a consultant like us, to tell you what the error is and help figure it out. Or worst case, you're calling Oracle tech support. At least now you're loaded with the exact error message. You can go back to your task dashboard, and you can see, exactly what time, what the user was doing to generate that error message. Was it during a consolidation process? Was it during something else when this error got triggered? So at least you're loaded up with enough information that you can provide tech support or somebody so they can start to troubleshoot, why the error occurred and how to resolve it. The last dashboard, which is, again, very helpful, especially companies that have large applications or large volume data, is the memory, So it's always key to understand, when it comes to performance, how much memory are the HFM applications using. There's a lot of great information that's taking place in here. So how much memory is being used, the CPU, the number of data cubes in RAM, and sort of try to dummy that back a little bit. HFM is built off of subcubes, and a subcube is your entity year scenario combination. And it's always been said, the larger the subcubes, the slower the performance of your HFM application. So this now gives you insight of what's going on within your application. A lot of this previously was just stored in log files on the application server. Now you have the nice ability to come right within your Hyperion workspace and see all this information in a nice graphical format. And we can actually drill down further. So any of these components that we see here on the left-hand side, you can click on any one of these and get into further information. So in this next example here, I clicked on the number of records of RAM within the largest subcube. So again, the thought process was, if you ever got around 100,000 records per subcube, you're really getting to more like a red flag area where that's a fairly large subcube, and you might have to consider doing some performance tuning, some configuration changes to improve performance with your application. So this allows me to click on any part of the graph, and a bubble will pop up and it'll tell me at that point in time how large my largest subcube is. So in this example, this application, right, the largest subcube was 23,000 records, so well below the 100,000, I'll say, warning threshold. So again, this gives me great insight of what's going on within the application. This is very helpful, again, for companies that may have large applications or large volume of data to understand what's going on within the application. So again, just a recap. So this was the Insight new feature. This came with the 201 patch, and again, a nice administrative tool to, as we just walked through, to see who's in the system, what they're doing, how much memory the application's using, what errors may be happening within the application to help troubleshoot the application. So the next big, I'll say, administrative enhancement is rules profiling. So this feature allows us to see how long consolidations are taking place and what kind of impact the rules are having on our consolidations with our major subroutines, our calculate, our consolidate, our translate. So again, this can be found in a very similar area where we just saw the Insight dashboards, where you go to navigate, administer, consolidate administration, and you'll see a new profile summary icon. The first time you enable it, you have to actually start it, so it's turned off out of the box, but you can enable it, and you will be prompted to say that it's probably not best to run this in a production environment, because it will have an impact on performance, right? It's going to be logging a lot of information, and it will slow down your performance. So it's best to typically run this in a dev or a test environment, or in worst case, obviously don't run this during peak hours of your month-end close. So once you do enable it, right, the next step would be that you would go into your system, you would consolidate a month of data, maybe consolidate 12 months of data, right? Get some information logged up with this rules profiling, and then you'll come in here and click on this profile summary, and the first thing that will come up is that you'll be in your rules view. Again, what this will start to show you is, one, how long it took to run your consolidation. And you'll see up here there's a drop-down arrow. So if you did run multiple consolidations, you click on this drop-down arrow, you can pick different consolidations to see how each one of them took, 1 month compared to 12 months, something like that. So the time is kept in milliseconds. So this is an example here that we're looking at. If this consolidation took a little over 100,000 milliseconds, which is equivalent to just under 2 minutes. But we can also, again, go further down and see how long the rules took, our major subroutines took to consolidate. So our consolidate, again, our consolidation, our translate, these are our major subroutines that are being run with our HFM rules file. And we can see now the impact that each of these subroutines has on our consolidation times. Now we can go a step further, right, and now we can click on this next radio button in the entity view. And by doing that, now we can actually see the consolidation times for each of our entity hierarchies, right? So we can see each entity hierarchy, how long it took to consolidate. We can go down to each individual base entity and see how long it took, right? This might be helpful to sort of, again, if there's performance issues, maybe there's different parts of the structures that are taking longer to consolidate than others. Maybe a foreign structure is taking longer because it has to translate, go through dollar overrides. Maybe there's more logic taking place in that structure versus the USD structure, and that gives us insight into that. You can go as further as clicking right on a base entity, and you'll get even more information. So again, if I'm clicking on a foreign entity, like here, I can see how long it took to calculate in the local currency in the Chinese renminbi versus, now it has to calculate, translate again into US dollars. Even more insight into how the rules are performing within your application. So again, this has always been very helpful. So, we're asked a lot of times to come in and do an application review. And one of the key things we'll always look at is, obviously performance and what the rules have on your application. We'll typically benchmark an application by putting in a blank rules file, running in consolidation, then loading back up a rules file and sort of saying, oh, your rules have added 10, 20, 30 minutes to your consolidation. So this, so in turn, right, we would start to look at how can rules be written more efficiently, possibly to make your application perform even better. And this tool now even provides more insight into that. So, it helps us and even helps yourself, right, troubleshoot, oh, well, it's in your, consolidate subroutine where things are really slowing down, or it's in your translate subroutine and so forth. So, right, we can try to narrow down where the performance hits are taking place and see if there's areas to improve that. Okay, so the next area that I'm going to talk about is, again, still sort of an administrative standpoint. As I mentioned earlier, with this version, Oracle did away with many of the HFM utilities that were in previous releases, and one of the big ones was the copy app utility. But now with the 201 patch, we now have the ability, again, to copy the entire HFM application between environments. So you can copy your production over to your dev or your test, so you can make a copy of your complete application. Again, this is everything. This is your consolidation status, your process management, data submissions, lock statuses, all your journals, data, forms, grids, right? It's unlike lifecycle management where it's more your artifacts and your components. This is your entire application being moved into a different environment that you can then use for testing purposes and things like that. So just FYI, there is some configuration that needs to be done with this piece, and it's explained well in the HFM admin guide, because obviously, right, we need to configure something so the prod environment knows how to talk to your dev or your test or your QA environment. So there's a little bit of configuration that needs to be done to enable this. One thing to point out too is that it's highly recommended before you run this copy process is to put your application in admin mode. So basically by doing this, you are basically just logging out all your end users, locking them out of your system, right? You don't want to have someone accidentally come in and start inputting data or making changes to the data when a copy process is taking place. So by putting your application in admin mode, you're locking out your users, allowing for a nice clean copy of your application to take place. So the other copy feature is called the duplicate application. So we just did the import application, that's across environments. Duplicate application is within existing environments, right? So there might be companies out there that just have one environment, and so to have a test application, to play with and validate rule changes or metadata changes, right? You can make a copy right within an existing application, and there is no additional configuration that needs to be done with this. This is out-of-box functionality. Again, we can just type in a new name, and you can duplicate the application. So again, this brings over your entire application, right? It's all your, just as it stands, everything's already fully consolidated, locked, and so forth. And so this is a nice feature as well. So at this point, right, these are like probably the key enhancements from an administrative standpoint, the insights, the rule profiling, and now the copy app utility. So now I'm going to head over to my colleague Dan, and he's going to talk about the features and enhancements that an end user will benefit from. So 1 second as I change him to the presenter.
Almost there, Mike.
Okay.
I'm here. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Dan Maturo. I've worked with Mike for many years, implementing HFM applications, and what I'm going to talk about is more of the end user capability and functionality that's been added to 11.124. First I'm going to talk about data grids, which I found really interesting when I started using them, because it was actually so simple and I expected something more difficult. But we're going to be talking about data forms, and data grids can now be viewed as charts. The chart is based on the data in the former grid. This is all out of the box. There's really nothing special that has to be done. It just works, and it's actually kind of cool, I think. The chart changes as the point of view changes. So if you change your point of view, the chart's going to immediately change its look to, as the data changes. The appearance of the chart is fully customizable. You can show the chart, you can show the table, or you can show both the chart and the table at the same time. You can also choose the chart type. I'll show you all the different chart types that are available. And you can do 3D charts, and I'll show you some examples of that. And you can change the legend on the screen to the top, to the bottom, to the left, to the right, or just turned off completely. And also the chart can be printed for presentation purposes. So first we're going to look at data forms. Now, data forms themselves, there happens to be a new icon that red arrow is showing, so once you click on that icon, it will generate the form that will actually change into a chart. First, this screen will come up that shows, lets you choose what you'd like to see. So you can look at a chart. In this example, we're looking at a vertical bar chart. It's turned on as 3D. The legend's on the right, as you can see. There is no label position, and we're going to display all labels, there's no fill on the background. The different types of charts that are available are bar horizontal, bar vertical, pie, donut, area, bubble, polar, radar, column horizontal, column vertical, funnel, and Pareto. Now, some of these will generate a chart. It is all based upon the amount of data that is actually in the grid or form itself. So and the dimensionality that's showing. So some of these charts will only work under certain conditions. In this case, we're going to what this particular slide is showing you is data grids. The same feature is available in data grids. What happens though is in the grid display options off to the right, there actually is a new feature at the bottom called chart, and it provides the same functionality that you saw in form, but it's always displayable and changeable as you're generating the grids, the charts themselves. I'm going to actually show you a few simple pie charts that were generated very easily from a simple data grid, and I'll explain the data grid. Here I'm analyzing sales by entity. So all this is looking at the actual scenario for 2016 for a particular month, in this case January. So the entities are down the rows, and the account, it happens to be in the columns. So this is a one-column grid for each base entity within an organization, and as you can see, it generated a pie chart based upon all of these particular entities. Here I've taken that same chart, and with simply making a change to the selection box on where the labels appear, I put it at the top of the chart. And the next one, if you mouse over any chart, it gives you the details behind that particular intersection. In this case, this pie slice is from entity 2012 for the sales account, and the value is 106 million currency units. In this case, it's actually value dimensions USD total, so it's in dollars. Here I've changed the point of view, so I changed the count in the grid, and I asked for cost of goods sold. So the charting program generates a new pie chart based upon this account and the values within that account for each base entity within this organization in US dollars. Here I was able to, what I did to the actual grid itself is I have actually taken the grid and I've added an additional count in the column, cost of goods sold. So sales and cost of goods sold is in the actual grid, and it presents two pie charts for me, and I can look at my sales in relationship to my cost of goods sold. I can add as many accounts as I want in the columns, and it will generate a corresponding number of pie charts, or if I wanted bar charts or line charts, it would do all those out of the box automatically. Here I've actually taken that same grid and I've presented it side by side in the table and the chart, all within the same workspace, grid. So you have the capability of seeing both of them at the same time, and it makes for a nice presentation. The next thing I'd like to talk about is a really cool feature. It's called Journals in SmartView. Actually, I find this much easier to use the journal module inside of Workspace. So you now have the capability of actually viewing all of your journals and managing them all within SmartView, never having to go back into Workspace to do this. Now, there are a few things that you need to do, as Mike mentioned earlier. To use journals in SmartView, you have to have Oracle SmartView release 11.1.2.5.500. 610 is available. To get that, just Google SmartView install, and you'll get a URL to the Oracle page that allows you to download the software. And actually, what's kind of cool with this is that it will uninstall your old SmartView automatically now. You no longer have to uninstall it. It takes care of it for you automatically. So once you've installed SmartView, you need to go into the location inside of your machine where SmartView was installed. In this case, it's on this machine, it's Oracle SmartView extensions, and you'll see the SVFM journal installer. You double click on that and it will install the extension into SmartView automatically. And once the extension is installed, you will find at the bottom of the panel two new links. One is Manage Journal and the other one's Create a Journal. So when you create a journal, you have the same functionality as HFM. You can create a new journal. You can create a journal directly from a data grid or a data form. New journal, you'll get an if you create a new journal, you get an Oracle Journals ribbon displayed. And as you can see, that's next to the SmartView ribbon here. This automatically comes up, and you can then enter the information of the journal directly into the journal's property menu. This is brought up by clicking on this Edit button here. It will bring up this panel, and then you can create all the attributes that the journal requires: the label, the description, balanced, unbalanced, regular type, what group it might belong to, what security class it needs to belong to, and it will show the status is working. Manage journals. So what we're looking at here is I clicked on the Manage Journal button, and it brought me up a particular, so for actual 2016 January entity currency adjustments, it brought me all the journals that have been posted to date. So I can double click on any of these. I can reject them from, reject these journals. I can unpost them. I can edit existing journals. If I go ahead and double click on one, it will actually bring up the journal for me. And I now can unpost it. All the controls that are available in Workspace journal functionality are also in this, in SmartView journals. So it shows me all the details that are necessary. So I can, in this case, I'm editing an existing journal. It brings it up, and I can make changes, and then I can unpost it, make the changes, and then repost it. I can create journals directly from data grids or data forms. So if I had, in this instance, I have an actual grid that I've brought up into SmartView, if I right mouse click, there's a new link that allows me to, that's journals, create journal, and then actually this is another new feature. I can do entity details in SmartView as well. So I can bring the entity details information into SmartView to look at how it flows, a particular intersection flows through the value dimension. So in this case, I'm creating new journal. It brings up this intersection, and then I can go ahead and add more lines to this. And then I can, when I'm done, I can actually click on the post button and post this journal into my journals for that particular period. If I wish, I would need to click on the edit button as well to bring up the details, to put a journal label on it. And as was mentioned in a previous slide, if I click on the save button, it will also bring up the panel for me to enter that information. So talk about a couple other new features. The application creation wizard has been added. It allows you, instead of, so if you want to create a new application, it walks you through the steps of the profile and helps you set up the application. You can still load a profile into this, but you can, rather than it being in the application creation wizard being in the metadata manager tool, it has been brought into right into the administrative tools. We also have support for Solaris for running on Exalytics. Something an end user probably would want a lot, and I've always asked for this, there's now a print button on the entity details report. So once you bring up entity details, you can actually print that entity details out rather than, trying to copy an HTML page and paste it out to some other, like Word or something, and then printing it out. Now you can print the entity details report directly to a printer. You can add additional years to an application. There's a utility to do so. And when you load or extract application elements, you now have the option to download or extract the log file, which wasn't available before. It's now available. And financial management application tabs now include the same right mouse click as EPM workspace. So you'll see close all, close other, close just this one. Those are the additional features and functionalities available in 11.124.200. And at this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to the audience for if they have any questions, and Mike and I will answer them.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dan. First question here: with the rules of profiling, will it or can it show a custom or specific subroutine?
Oh, thanks, Joe. So yeah, in regards to that, so you can, there is a capability, so like I was always talking about how you can look at the major subroutines, consolidate, translate, calculate. You can add a portion to the rules file to actually keep track of a specific subroutine. So maybe you have an allocate subroutine or a cash flow subroutine that you really want to know just how that subroutine works and how long that subroutine itself is tracked. So there is, if you look at the HFM guide, there's simple code you can add to your rules file to keep track of just those subroutines, and that will also show up in your rules profile. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Are the administration tools unique to HFM, or are they shared across other Hyperion platforms? For example, OBI, planning, etc.
So we'll talk about, so again, so what we were talking about as far as the memory, that was all HFM specific at this time. So like the Insight dashboard, that was, as far as I'm aware, only specific to the HFM components, right? We were looking at, so if you think about like the, the max RAM of subcubes, right? That's very particular to HFM. That doesn't relate to a planning or F-based application. So this is really looking just at the HFM data database and providing that type of information.
Great. Okay. Next question. Any enhancements around Oracle EBS's write-back feature?
That one, I'm going to have, I'm sorry, Oracle EBS, that we said, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we'll have to get back to you on that one. That I am not aware about at this time.
Okay. Can you see the new grid and form charts within SmartView?
I'll take that one. No, actually, if you want to use grids inside of SmartView, you're going to have to use the charting capability of Excel to do that. It's not, that feature is not available in SmartView.
Okay. Are there any additional enhancements coming?
I'll take that one. So, right, actually, just in the past, I think, couple of weeks, there was another patch that just came out, a 203 patch. This one, and more or less, is just addressing a lot of bugs and other issues with the version. So the 203 just came out a couple of weeks ago, so that is the latest patch for this release. And again, it addressed more bugs, a few other performance issues related to locking, unlocking entities just came out. And then we're also aware that there is another major patch coming out, hopefully by the end of this year, a .300 patch that's going to have additional features and functionality that so have a look out for that. We can't really share much more detail on that right now. We do have a platinum partnership with Oracle. We are aware of things that are coming down the line, but we can't share any more information other than that we are aware there's another large patch coming out, hopefully by the end of this year.
Okay. I'm not sure we can give a specific answer to this next question because there are so many factors to consider when we give recommendations, but I'm just going to throw the question out there. Do you recommend HFM on-prem or FCCS for a client with a revenue of $10 billion and across multiple countries with multiple GLs?
That is a loaded question, and something we probably should discuss more offline. So obviously, right, so I mean, right, Oracle has released, we know there's a large push for the cloud out there right now, but at this point, right, FCCS has just come out recently, and it's definitely not as large as HFM as it stands right now. Obviously, Oracle can continue to improve their cloud product, but with large applications like major applications, right, we need the multi-dimensionality. The cloud is sort of limited to 2 dimensions at this time, so the on-premise HFM is probably still a very viable option for a lot of companies, depending on their size and things. But again, every question is very unique in that regard and something that should be probably discussed more offline.
Yeah, and Mike, I would take into the considerations of what complexities they have in their accounting that that might be better fit for an on-prem application.
Great point.
Okay. Do you need to install the SmartView journal installer for each user that wants to do journals in SmartView?
Yes, you do. Okay. So each user would have to install that extension into their SmartView, but it's really a simple process, and each user can do it by themselves. They really don't need any help from IT. Because that installer is automatically downloaded with SmartView itself. So it'll be on their machine automatically.
Okay, great. Can you export data, forms, grids, tables, charts as a PDF? And can this be leveraged for reporting versus tools such as FR Studio and OBI-EE?
Mike, you know that answer from a PDF perspective? I don't. I mean, some charts.
Right. So I mean, you could print. I mean, I know, I have the ability even when I print, I can print to a PDF file. So I know, so from that standpoint, you could probably, print it to a PDF file. From what you do with it at that point, it's hard to say. But you would have the ability to. It's not an option when you click on print, but if you do have a PDF. You could roughly print it to a PDF. I'm not sure how well we've answered that question. I know a lot of what I was showing with the dashboard, the logs. There is no print capability there yet, but hopefully that's one of the new enhancements that might be coming on with one of the later patches.
Okay. Typically, how long does it take to do an upgrade or apply these patches?
So again, sort of a bit of a harder question to answer. So I'll say with these patches, so patches are definitely more straightforward. So if you're already on 11.1.2.4, applying these patches typically does not take a long time. So, like we have a very large infrastructure group here at Ranzel that, it probably would take, no more than maybe a couple hours to apply a patch to HFM. And granted, we're just talking HFM here, not sure, other products come into play. But from an HFM standpoint, it does not take long to apply these patches. It's also always recommend, maybe apply your patch to a dev test environment first, make sure it's working as expected, and then, apply it to your prod environment. If you're looking to actually upgrade, from a previous release, maybe if you're still on, 1.2.2, 1.2.3, right, and looking to get to 1.2.4, that's more involved, right, and that's where additional conversations really need to take place. I was saying, we have an infrastructure group that we get involved and talking about, whether you do an upgrade, in place over your prior release or have to acquire new servers for the new version. And there's more that goes into it, right? We need to understand all the other products that are involved, with FDM, EE being the biggest one, because with 1.2.4, FDM Classic goes away, so there'd be a migration process there. So that's sort of a big question that would need to be addressed, and we would be happy to talk to you about it.
Okay, great. This is another question I think that would require a lot of other factors, to be considered, but I'm not sure if you guys can provide any insight on this. How long does an implementation project take moving to HFM from a different consolidation tool?
You want me to take that one, Dan?
Well, it's probably, if it's from a different consolidation tool, it's really a complete build within inside HFM. Typically, those implementations can take, depending on the size of the organization, the complexity of the application, like number of entities, accounts, anywhere from 6 to 9 months to implement HFM from another consolidation tool that's currently in place.
There's definitely a lot that gets involved there. As Dan was saying, the requirements need to be talked about, the number of users, what you're trying to automate, so there's a lot that goes into an implementation.
Okay. Would you be able to provide any information regarding a new feature in 11.1.2.4? This is the registry settings. That you can update the HFM registry settings directly in Consolidation Admin?
So that is correct. So there are features. So directly from the Hyperion workspace, instead of having to go onto the server to make some of the performance tweakings, like I started talking about, like if you need to increase RAM, increase your timeout settings, you used to always have to do that from the HFM server, get it by infrastructure consultant involved. This is now all available via the Hyperion workspace. And so in each of these configuration changes are labeled out very nicely within the HFM admin guide, so there is performance tuning that you can make directly from the workspace without having to go onto the server.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, additional questions may be emailed to us at info@ranzel.com, and we will respond to you via email, or if you give us contact information, we can also contact you directly. A recording of this webinar will be available on our website shortly, where you may also find a number of previous webinars posted. Dan, if you don't mind transitioning to the next slide, we can show upcoming webinars. We still have several webinars in our 2016 program covering different topics and products. Our next webinar is this Thursday, November 10th, and it demonstrates the ways in which Account Reconciliation Cloud Service can be used to effectively speed up the close cycle with auto reconciliations, flexible formats, and reporting and analytics. Later in the month, on November 22nd, we're hosting a webinar to highlight the main components of process management in Hyperion planning and demonstrate how this interface helps users define the promotional path of data to validate or to submit. Additional webinars will cover such topics as streamlining the consolidation and close process using financial consolidation and close cloud service, and understanding the path a typical enterprise planning and budgeting cloud service project cycle would take from inception of requirements to delivery of solution. Visit our website to find and register for a webinar that interests you. Thank you to our audience for joining us and for submitting your questions, and thanks to both Mike and Dan for sharing your knowledge and expertise during this presentation. This concludes today's webinar.